Hey, now it's the Rob from 106.1 Kiss FM here with my tag team partner in podcasting. You okay over there, bud?
Man, I feel like I'm down south on a rocking chair outside. It's so hot. The air conditioner broke in the studio.
Why? What happened?
The air conditioner broke 2 days ago, and they haven't fixed it. And so now I feel like I'm doing a show from inside an armpit. It's a terrible time.
If you don't believe that Jerry works in radio, here's your proof. The air conditioner broke.
It broke, but it didn't break on the sales side of the building. Oh, no, it wouldn't do that.
That's how radio works, exactly. How you doing, bud?
I'm doing, other than the fact that I've lost 4 pounds of water weight in the last 4 hours, I'm doing great. I feel good.
Good. Happy to hear that. Well, I'm curious, did you watch SmackDown this week?
I did. I didn't watch. I've determined that there's no way I'm ever going to be able to watch it live. I tried for a couple weeks, but it's just not going to happen. Not like Raw. So correct. I did, but I watched it yesterday.
Yeah, me too. And it's funny because I even had the day off yesterday, and I watched the first half. I was able to stay up a little bit later, so I watched the first half on Tuesday night, but eventually finished up Wednesday morning watching the show. It's just so much in a row like that.
It is. But here's the advantage of SmackDown. It's like, it's so easy. It's almost easier to consume than any of the other wrestling program there, other than the CWC, because that's like 50 minutes of great action, and that's awesome in itself.
That might be my favorite show that actually runs.
It is. It is for me, for sure. But what I think about SmackDown is, usually from the past couple weeks, it's been front to back solid, where Raw gives you a good show, and maybe even a better show, some people would argue, but there are too many lulls in between because it's got that extra hour of content to fill.
If you cut Raw down to 2 hours, it would be a great show.
It absolutely would be. It would be kind of like your Guns N' Roses Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 theory, where if you took some of the best songs from 1 and 2 and made one album instead of two, it would be one of the greatest albums of all time.
Yeah, I do. I believe that. You don't. To me, if you just count them as one album, which I don't think you can. I mean, they were released on the same day and they kind of have the same name, but they're two separate albums. If you count them as one, though, it's the best album ever made, in my opinion.
Right. I had to buy them separately at the wall when I was a teenager, and it cost like $25 a piece. So it's not the same album. That cost me $50.
Worth it though. Yeah, it's not the same album, but I wish it was. Remember when we on the radio the one time I kind of remixed the album and made it one?
Yes.
That was fun. One
of my favorite moments of you, and we're off track already, but one of my favorite moments of Rob on the air in State College, like he came over, we were purchased by another company, and he came over and was not incredibly happy with them. And the first night he was on the air, they just had a terrible music library for a rock station, and they had like a 4-minute cut of November Rain. And I'm listening to your show, and he goes on, and it's like, blah, 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 this radio station from here, the Rob, and that was half of my favorite song of all time. I just about died.
I was determined to make that my one and only show with that company, and I was successful.
You did a very good job of that. You set a goal, and you reached it.
I hit it. And then I left. I drove to my program director's house that night, and I knew he would be there because he was on house arrest.
That's always a great sign.
So I knew he would be there, and I was the guy who was actually driving him to work every day. So I knew where he lived, and I knew he'd be there to accept my resignation.
And then 2 years later, when he was still on house arrest, I did a morning show with him, and then I drove him to work every day.
So you gotta love radio. Good God. All right, we're off to a great start.
Yeah.
Let's talk about SmackDown. I took some notes, and then we'll hit some of the big news stories that have happened this week, because I do feel like over the past week, a lot has happened. So
yeah, there's been a lot of news.
So let's talk about it. I wanted to start by saying I'd heard a lot about the Miz's Talking Smack promo before I actually got a chance to witness it on Tuesday. I guess I watched it Tuesday. And everyone was saying it was fantastic and great. And I want to weigh in on it and say that I agree 200%. Have you seen this promo?
I have. I went back and I watched that yesterday, actually. It went under my radar. So I decided to watch it after I watched SmackDown. And so after the fact, it was great. Was it?
Oh my God.
Miz with teeth. I love it. I think, when SmackDown did their draft, Miz was one of the reasons why I was just steaming mad. Oh, I was just
What do you mean?
Well, he was one of their top picks, and I was like, oh, great. So, Raw gets Finn Balor and SmackDown gets The Miz. It seems crappy, but he's benefiting hugely from this. He's reaping the benefits, and so are we, because he's got a huge role on SmackDown, and I think he is doing a great job.
Yeah, well, this is one of the best promos of his entire career. I mean, this is huge. It was like real. I don't know if it was supposed to end the way it did with Daniel Bryan walking out, but he just had Daniel Bryan checkmated at every move.
Yeah, he totally smoked him. The only thing that disappoints me about the whole thing is because of health reasons, we know there's never going to be a way for them to work it out in the ring.
Yes, I mean, I'd say it's possible, but unlikely.
It would be great. It would be great. And I like the Miz came out again, and I think he'll have a good program with Dolph, although I hope Dolph doesn't win it. I want Dolph to just not win that at all. I want Miz to stay champion now. I didn't at first. I was like, get that belt off him. Give it to someone else. And now I want him to keep it.
I think they're both good Intercontinental champions. Dolph's not, I mean, I think that we'll learned he's not like a world title guy. It's so funny because I've been meaning to say this for the past 2 episodes. I'm not going to forget today. When they were doing that feud with Dean Ambrose and Dolph Ziggler, they kept referring to Dolph as if he had never won the big one, which shows how unimpactful his one title run was.
Yeah, I didn't know he had won the championship. I wasn't watching at that time.
Yeah, he won the day after WrestleMania. I forget which one, but I think he cashed in his Money in the Bank, I think on Cena, and beat him.
And it was just uneventful and just not memorable at all?
It was quick. I don't remember how long it lasted, but I think it was less than a month. But like they just keep referring, like it just seemed like he was someone who had never won it before. And it just shows you that he might not be, his character might not be. I adore him. I think he's so ready, but he's just not, he doesn't have that main event feel, that X factor that you can't teach.
Yeah, he doesn't have the crowd behind him like he did.
No, that we've lost. But then how is the crowd supposed to stay invested in someone that they keep turning on and turning off and heating up and cooling down? It's tough.
Exactly. And I think that's starting to happen a little bit with Bray Wyatt as far as heels go.
Yeah, you might be right. He had a good promo, I thought. I didn't make any notes about it, but I thought that his segment with Orton was fine.
They have great chemistry, and I thought Orton had a good point, and I really liked him working in the fact that, like, I've been down this road before. Creepy, weird dude wants to fight me. I did it with Mankind. I did it with Undertaker. I think it'll be good. It's a good feud for both of them and an opportunity for them to both come out looking a little bit better. I don't know. I don't want Orton to come out on top of this one, though. Bray needs to start burying people.
He can't keep getting buried. That's the thing. He's under a lot of dirt already. That's why I really think that Orton should have beat Brock at SummerSlam and then maybe have Bray get the best of Orton and really reestablish Bray as a contender.
Right.
But my second note about SmackDown had to do with, like you had mentioned last week, the little things that Cena was doing, just being the cock of the walk.
AJ Styles, you mean?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I meant AJ Styles. Just being the face that runs the place and being a parody of Cena. I thought it was great. And then it was sad because when he was backstage with Apollo Crews, it really showed the differential between the two, and that Crews is really, really having a tough go of things on the main roster.
Yeah, and this was a guy that I didn't know much about because I didn't watch that much NXT. You were very high on Crews.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think he's capable of so much, but he's not showing it. And I don't know whose fault it is. It could be his. I mean, he's not doing himself any favors with all the goofy smiling he's doing.
This is my Apollo Crews impression.
Yeah, see, I only make that impression when you make me laugh. Is my smile that big? But yeah, he's doing it way too much, and he shouldn't be a smiley type of guy. And
no, he needs to be a monster. I want my big dudes to be monsters.
Yeah, and he should be a monster heel specifically. But I don't know. It's a combination of everything, but he's not working, and that makes me sad because he's got so much potential to work, and he's not. Now
the match with AJ Styles, that was good. How much of it can be credited to Apollo Crews and how much is just AJ Styles being able to have a good match with a pair of shoes?
I think it was two good guys. I don't think Crews has a bad work rate. I just think that they're not getting traction with his presence, I guess.
Right.
So there's that. Someone who is getting traction unexpectedly. Who would have thought every week we have something glowing to say about Heath Slater? I'm assuming you agree with me.
Oh, I love Beulah too, by the way, and the cheese whiz and sausages.
that was so good. I don't know if you were watching in like 02, 03, 04 when Jamie Noble was teaming with Nydia.
No.
But he was doing great stuff just like this. It's very reminiscent of that. And this was very well done. I thought it was great.
Heath Slater is being used very well. And kudos to the writing staff on SmackDown because I don't think they intended, back when he said that line about, my 4 kids and my 7 in my above ground pool, I'm sure that they didn't have it blocked that 4 weeks down the road, Renee Young would be coming to his trailer and meeting Beulah. And he's been making such a splash that they can't ignore him. And I think that's what he needed to do. And I think it's awesome. And I'm so glad that he and Rhino won that tag match against the Headbangers.
Yeah, I've got a lot of notes about that actually, but I agree. I'll definitely say that I think one of their goals was to maybe take better care of Heath Slater, but I think this has far exceeded their expectations.
Yeah, I just love it. Everybody's behind him. He's getting a very big pop.
So yeah, I wish the Headbangers, I guess, would have faced off against someone else because I was someone who was very excited for their return. And I was so let down for a number of reasons. I don't know why I was so excited for them. I guess it's because they're a tag team from my youth that was very visible when I was, starting to watch wrestling.
It's a nostalgia act. It's kind of like when I got fired up when the Dudley Boys showed up a year ago, and then by now I'm just done with them.
But like the Dudleys weren't as exciting to me, and neither were the New Age Outlaws when they returned. I never thought we'd see the Headbangers again, ever, and we did, and it was so phoned in to me, and I'll explain what I mean. Like, okay, they couldn't use their old music. They couldn't have thrown together a Titantron. Like, even if you just take the video from the video they had hyping them, you could have put together, they just had like lines over the Titantron, like a backdrop kind of thing. It looked like the backdrop that Corey Graves stands in front of when he talks about the CWC. It was nothing. Like, you couldn't have thrown something together to get me excited for the Headbangers return. They phoned it in. And then the match was honestly, I don't know. I wasn't expecting, a Flair Steamboat, but what I got was it let me down, I guess.
Yeah, it was kind of a disappointing segment until Heath Slater and Rhino win, which, I've heard some people say that was a foregone conclusion, and I guess it kind of was. But you bring back a nostalgia act, you never know if they're going to have them win or not. And I was like, please don't let Heath Slater lose. Okay,
it was a foregone conclusion because they were fighting Slater and Rhino. If you would have put the Headbangers against the Vaudevillains, it would not have been a foregone conclusion.
No, wouldn't have figured it out. And speaking of the Vaudevillains, their burial is almost complete at this point. They lost the Hype Bros, and that's it.
I was optimistic when the Vaudevillains came in, but I no longer appreciate them. And this was on them because, and I'll say the same review I have of them since day one. I feel like they are not delivering the goods with their character. I feel like you could give their gimmick to 2 random independent workers and they would do better with it than these 2 guys are.
Gentleman Jack on the CWC already does a better Vaudevillains than the Vaudevillains.
Yeah, so I now don't like them and wish them Ascension-like failure. So
I don't dislike Ascension as much as everybody else. I just think they're saddled with a stupid gimmick. Which one is the big one in Ascension? Is that Connor?
Steve?
What?
I'm asking Steve. I don't know.
Steve. I think it's called Steve Helper.
No, I didn't think the guy's name was Steve. I'm just saying, Steve, were you watching?
Steve and Connor.
What a great tag team they would be. Connor and Steve.
The Ascension, and they come out with their face. Oh,
No, I was saying, Steve, do you know which one's which? Because let me tell you why I don't like the Ascension. Yes, they were saddled with a bad gimmick. Okay. And Steve, there's Steve. It's Connor. Thank you, Steve.
Okay, it'd be great. All I wanted to say, and then get to your point, is that I saw them at a house show, and I was in the front row, and Connor, he's a monster. He's very big. That dude is surprisingly big. And you can say that about a lot of the wrestlers. But I had all the guys. Big E was in front of me at one point. Rusev, John Cena, they were all in front of me. Luke Harper was a monster, but Connor was one of the biggest guys in front of me. And if they just gave him a different thing, I feel like it would have worked for them.
Yeah, Jerry is very Vince McMahon-like in his love of big guys. Big is better in Jerry's world. But, I mean, it's not worse. I know you were a barbarian and a warlord guy, too.
I did. I loved all those guys in Haku.
So my thing with the Ascension, what bothers me about them is I get the impression that in real life, they're just not good dudes. And I actually get that from watching season 1 of Swerved. Anytime that they were in candid situations, they came off like real a-holes to me. And like like people I would not want to be around. And not like they were pranking people, like just their reactions to the situations they were in struck me as just bad dudes, just guys I didn't like.
Well, I've heard that not just about Connor and Steve, but I've also heard that about the Vaudevillains. I heard Simon Gotch or whatever is a real jerko.
Oh, yeah. I've heard that too. Now, if it was Connor and Steve, Steve Hennig, I would be very supportive of that team.
Right.
But what is it? Is it Connor and is it Adrian?
I just don't think you can have pedestrian names. It's nothing against the name Steve. It'd be like if it's like, here's the Ascension, and they come out with this metal, and it's like Rob and Jerry. Like, that's a joke.
I can't even think. What's the other one's name? Why am I forgetting this?
I think it's Steve. I think you're right. Let's just move on.
Is it Adrian? I don't even remember.
You're making it worse.
I am. I'm sorry. It's Connor and Steve. Got to shout out Gary the Milkman Millman.
Oh, I love it. The Milkman.
Shipping down to his panties. Victor. Thank you, Steve.
Victor. There it is. Victor. Steve's always there ready to help.
Yeah, Steve always coming in the club. I ignore the Ascension. I like Jerry ignores Titus O'Neil. I just can't. I don't actually fast forward, but I mentally fast forward the Ascension. So the Milkman didn't last very long with Kane. My last note from SmackDown, and listen, I know I'm a soft body myself. I'm not in ship shape, so to speak, but Baron Corbin is super jiggly.
I think you're right. I want him to succeed, but I'm not going to be blind about it. I want Baron Corbin. I want him to be good. The dude is, we're going back to the big guy thing. He's big. He's, he looks like he could be one of the Wyatts. He looks mean. Yeah,
I agree with everything you're saying.
Mean. And, but you're right. He's also like, I stuffed crust pizza is really great. So
well, I think the deal is that when he was in the NFL, he was very heavy and was in a position where size mattered and stuff like that, and then lost a bunch of weight when he got to NXT and started working out to be a wrestler. And I'm betting that that's the result of like loose skin as opposed to actually being a fatty.
It could be. I was ready to blame the whole lone wolf thing. Like, if you're all by yourself all the time, then you have no one to share the bag of Oreos with. You have nobody to share the pizza with, and you're eating it all yourself, you lone wolf, and now you look like a lone koala bear.
But I don't know what it is, but I'm starting to think maybe dude should put a shirt on. What do you think? I'm sure Kevin Owens has a couple sleeveless laying around. He could lend them. He should just wear a KO shirt.
That'd be the best.
They're $15 this week on WWE.com.
That's what I want someone to do. Like, they get into a feud with somebody and they start coming to the ring wearing their opponent's shirt. Like, I think that would be hilarious.
They used to, like, Shane McMahon or Chris Jericho would do like parody shirts, but yeah, just wear this, or just assume that, Baron Corbin can't get another shirt and you just wore an old KO shirt.
Right. It's just like, they won't make me a shirt yet. So
he's failing too, though, isn't he?
I think he is. I think he is. Although I liked the match on SmackDown, but they're putting him in it. They're going to put him in a feud with Kane, and you know how I feel about Roman Reigns. I call him the Samoan Kane. The only thing worse than the Samoan Kane is the real Kane. I don't.
The American Kane.
I don't want it. So now we're going to have Corbin Kane. Great.
That's not going to do anybody any favors. Now, is Corbin? Is he a victim of bad writing? Is he a victim? Because I don't know that it's that. I just feel like it's like one of those Apollo Crews things. I don't know what it is, but it's just not working.
I don't know what it is either. I can't put my finger on it because I think, unlike Crews, they're trying with Corbin. They need him to step into a role, into like a more of a heel role, and I think he would benefit if they dropped the Lone Wolf and they gave him to Bray Wyatt for a bit.
Well, I'll also say this. I'm not 100% convinced he was ready to be called up when he was called up.
I never know about those things because I don't watch NXT. And I should because I like all the guys that come up, but I don't watch it enough to know if he was ready or not.
Crews was, though. Crews was definitely ready, in my opinion.
No, he's not. No, he's not. He's ready for a Colgate commercial. He's not ready for anything other than like a Crest commercial.
Colgate. All right. So, is there anything you wanted to mention? I thought that. I'm so
hot. I'm so sorry. I'm so hot.
I thought Ambrose did a solid job. We've been down on him lately. I thought that he was kind of being what I wanted him to be after the match with AJ Styles.
Yeah, I need him to be. Just keep doing what you're doing, Dean. Step it up a bit more. And lose the title at Backlash.
No, well, what you said, I don't agree with. I don't want him to keep doing what he's doing. Well, the only thing I've liked him over the past month was the last 2 minutes of SmackDown this week. With AJ, he was being a weirdo in a good way. Like remember when he crotched AJ on the ropes and then he started like whispering to him and like, poking him around and being weird. That's what we need him to be doing, that stuff.
Yeah, for me, I just want him to give the title to AJ.
Lose your smile and hand him the title.
Just hand it to him.
All right, so that was SmackDown. I will say, pleasantly surprised with SmackDown's quality since the draft.
Yeah, they've made chicken gravy out of chicken poop, I think.
The pay-per-view is not this Sunday, but the following, and I think it looks okay, I guess. Let's talk about, I've got 3 news stories I wanted to throw at you from the past week that were big. I know you mentioned this on our last video. We didn't get enough in depth about it. Mr. Fuji passing away is obviously very sad. You had a great quote years ago, long before I was ever part of a wrestling podcast with whoever was hosting it. But you had a great quote. I believe it was when Captain Lou died. You had a quote that went, it's always strange when wrestlers die at a normal age.
Yeah.
Or at an appropriate age. And,
when they die at an appropriate age, you're like, oh, wow, you've outlived your coverage by 25 years at 83 years of age.
Right. When I started watching wrestling, he was a very big part of the show, managing Yokozuna. I think if many people watching say they have a lot of memories of him as a wrestler, they're probably bluffing. Yeah. He was a wrestler. I've seen matches of his, but I'm not going to lie and say I have a ton of memories of him wrestling. I have a ton of memories of him managing, and he was really good at that and had to do nothing. Just his look and his mannerisms and his props made him a great manager.
That was a great look, and I'd have to look at the timeline. Did he lift that look from James Bond, or did the James Bond movies lift that look from him?
I don't know.
Because the Japanese guy in the black suit with the bowler hat or whatever, I think that was a James Bond thing. I don't know. But the look was perfect. He did what a manager was supposed to do. He'd cheat. He was shady. He had the crowd hating on him, which was, half of it good heat and the other half racist. So,
Hashtag wrestling.
Hashtag wrestling.
You're from a different country. You're a bad guy. That's the way it works. Back in the 70s, 80s, and before, that's just the way it worked.
Yeah. They still kind of do that.
Steve says his tag team partner was Odd Job in James Bond films. Yeah, I thought his name was Odd Job.
Yeah.
I remember being Odd Job in the Nintendo 64 game when I was a heel.
Odd Job.
Because he was harder to shoot. All right.
By the way, Odd Job's real name, Steve.
So,
yeah. Rest in peace, Mr. Fuji.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm glad he got to live a long life. I was going to say a long, happy life, but I just assumed it was happy.
Well, I mean, he had 83 years, I'm sure, and it was in pro wrestling, so some of it was happy, and some of it was probably a little Jake the Snakey.
If you could tell me that I could live to 83, or I can take my bets on the way things are going now, I would say I'll take 83.
I'll take 83 until you get to 82, and then you'll be like, how about 85?
Yeah, right, exactly. All signs are, from what I'm hearing, looking like a legit Goldberg return. Valeria, your thoughts?
I'm in. I like it. I'm a little nervous because he's not a great wrestler. He was always just a good presence. You know, WCW handled him right in the beginning, I thought. He ruined Bret Hart's career, and he put on one of the worst matches ever with Brock Lesnar, who he's going to feud with here. So maybe a shot of redemption. We'll see.
Here's what I think about this. And I know a lot of people have problems with this, and I am not a Goldberg mark, never was, never will be. I do want to tell people that I'm happy about this, and I'll explain why. Like 2-3 years ago, they released a Goldberg 3 DVD set that I picked up. Okay. And the first 2 discs are all WCW matches. The third disc rather, is all WWE matches. And that disc is fantastic. I really feel like WWE knew how to juice every drop out of Goldberg. And I thought that year he was there, he was always involved in something exciting. And I would be for a Goldberg return. I think they would handle it properly.
Well, how do you explain that Lesnar-Goldberg match that everybody refers to as an abomination?
No one cared. It was everyone's last match involved. No one cared.
Right.
You know, that's how I explain that. There was 2 guys. Well, Lesnar was known as a great worker, but Goldberg never really cared. It's 2 guys who are financially motivated, and that's one thing. Very few people can get away with that, but those are 2 people who can.
Yeah, I'm interested to see him show up, and I think that'll be good. They'll probably make that a Mania match, wouldn't you think?
I think you build to it. The last time when they brought Goldberg in, it was a night after WrestleMania through WrestleMania 20. And I think it would probably be something along those lines, culminating in like a WrestleMania match.
When are you hearing he's going to show up? Because pretty cool.
Nothing's
Rumble entrant.
Nothing's inked yet. I think it'd be bigger than a surprise Rumble thing. I don't know. I don't know what to say about it. So there was that one. And then the last thing I wanted to mention before we sign off is Alberto Del Rio, I hear, is officially done with the company.
Thank you, WWE. You will be getting a Christmas card from me on behalf of everybody that hates Ryback. And you're going to get a Christmas card from Rob on behalf of everyone that hates Alberto Del Rio. Dude, do you understand what just happened? My least favorite wrestler gets released, then your least favorite wrestler gets released.
Okay, I don't know. Okay, his last run was not so bad. If you factor in his entire career in WWE, he's among the bottom 3. I would rather see Sheamus go than Alberto Del Rio.
Okay, so I was going to ask you, who's your next one?
Yeah, Sheamus.
Who's next on your chopping block? Sheamus. Mine's Titus O'Neil. So let's go. Let's get those 2 out now next.
You want to have a, well, I don't want to take that bet. I was just like, it was a friendly race. Whose least favorite can get fired first?
Yeah, I'm betting it'll be mine here because I think Titus is walking himself right down the path.
But I do think I would find a joy in Roman Reigns getting released.
Well, I would love if Kane got released, but that's never going to happen.
Oh, Kane could be not far away.
I think Kane will always have a role in that company. He's been one of their boys forever, you know?
Yeah, well, I'm assuming he would stick around in some road manager kind of way.
Yeah, that's the one thing you can say about Vince is he is typically loyal to the people that are loyal to him. Now, Brooklyn Brawler was a head scratcher a while ago, but you know, I don't know everything that goes on backstage. Yeah. So I don't think Kane will get released. Sheamus probably not either, although I wouldn't be upset about that.
Titus, son of a gun. Titus will go before any of the names we mentioned, you know, I think. But I mean, Titus could be like next. He might be in the next round of cuts, but he did it to himself. His past 2 weeks on Raw had been not at all good, and his fault stuff.
He's the worst.
All right, so that's what we think. But yeah, I do. You know, I want to give Alberto Del Rio some credit, though. I've been trying to, you know, be unbiased in the last year he was here, since October, and match quality was much better, and his absence of a storyline presence and a championship run made it much more palatable for me. So
Does
yeah,
Paige get released, you think?
I don't think she'll get released. If she leaves, it will be on her own.
Okay.
It'd be stupid of her to do that. So anything else you want to mention before we hit the road?
The only thing I would mention other than what we covered is sort of non-wrestling yet wrestling related. I think CM Punk is going to lose really badly in the UFC.
I don't know enough to make an educated decision, but I really want him to.
My instructors at my MMA school, he's been in MMA for 30 years. He knows his stuff. He says he's watched stuff and watched tape and talked to people. One of his instructors that he works with all the time is actually the corner man for Brock Lesnar in the UFC.
His name's Ryan, right?
Eric Paulson. Ryan is the guy I'm talking about. Yeah. And he said if CM Punk was one of his students, he'd still be in a fundamental group. He wouldn't let him fight yet. He's not ready. There's a thing called smokers, where your gym closes the doors and they bring in other fighters and they let you have fights, real sanctioned fights, not sparring, they're fights, and they see how you can do. And he had 10 smokers and he won one of them.
Punk.
Okay. So that's not good. I think he's got. I'm rooting for him. I think he's going to get destroyed.
No, I've seen Ryan's podcast with you, and he knows his stuff for sure. My only thought is, and like I said,
they're giving him an easier fight though, so he could,
My only thing is UFC, I would think, would feed Punk an easy opponent at first, one that he would be able to beat with somewhat ease. I would think.
They did. They're feeding him someone that's brand new, but this brand new kid is. I'm telling you. He's good on his back. He's good with jiu-jitsu.
When's the fight?
I think it's soon. I think it's this weekend. I don't know. There's one coming up at some point. And it's in September. It's in September.
Just for the sake of it, as a guy who knows nothing about MMA, or I'll say little. I know a little bit. I'll go ahead and take your bet, a friendly bet, that I'll take Punk. Even though I don't want him to win, I don't think they'll feed him a guy that he's outmatched with. So I'll take your bet.
Good.
All right.
And that's it. I think we're done for the day.
Thank you so much, Jerry Valeri. I appreciate everything. I know you're in a hot box over there. I can already smell it mentally. I can smell what's going on in that room, and boy, do I love it.
Look at this shirt. Look how wet it is.
My God. All right, get out of there, buddy. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks, Steve, for your contributions. There's Jerry's boobs. Those boobs. Jerry, you're the best. I love you, buddy.
Love you, Rob. Bye.